Hey, it's Drybear. The new patch has been out for a couple days, and all of us have been grinding for these new mutant cells. So today I wanted to talk about the addition of the mutant cells to the Sigma sector, what this means going forward, and just generally how people are reacting to this system as a whole. But first, a quick reminder that there are still 2 daily login events going on right now. The Beyond Sigma sector one that takes 14 days to log in has 17 days remaining. So if you're just now starting, make sure you're logging in every day to get the value reward from this, especially the ultimate bunny, or more importantly, the free cosmetics that you get from the end of this one as well. Secondly, there's also a weird bug or maybe implementation error with the Albion special dispatch. This, for whatever reason, doesn't give you credit for logging in unless you open this page. Like if you just logged in and played, I don't think it actually gives you credit. You have to go to the page to get credit. So make sure that every day you're logging in after reset. And it tells you the time until next attendance here. Just make sure you log in, go to the screen and get these. There are still some skins for Blue Beetle and the cavalry gun here. There's some like catalysts and stuff going on. And there's also even some like paints down here. And at the very end, you actually get a hairstyle for Serena and some good grind and a emote from that as well. So make sure you're logging in. This is a good one. Unfortunately, we don't get any of the items that allow you to transfer progress from normal to ultimate descendant, but still there's some goodies in here you don't want to miss. Now when it comes to the mutant cell addition, I was actually super hyped for this system to go into the game. I think it was kind of like a nice addition to the arcade tuning. There were a lot of concerns I had when the system was first announced, and I think those concerns are still valid and are still hurting the system. The first one is that they didn't increase the amount of points that we have total for the arcade tuning board, while also simultaneously making the board bigger and it require more points. So that was the first restriction they placed on it that felt kind of odd. I feel like they could have at least gone up to like 42 to 45 points on the arcade board, so we could at least get to the corners a little bit more evenly, and even then the overall power would go up with this. Now it's kind of like a side grade. It is opportunity cost. Obviously, you are kind of incentivized to go for and get the corners of the arcade tuning board in order to actually get the cells. But that's the first problem, is that there's just a lot of restrictions placed on that. The next restriction is, you know, I kind of get why they did it, but it definitely feels like it was a bit of a miss, is the whole placement of the socket type, and also the socket type restriction by itself. So not only do you need to spend minimum 5 extra points to get to the mutant cell corner to get that part unlocked and use it, but also depending on what your build is, you are limited by the choice you can place in that corner because of the socket of the mutant cell in general, which I think places a secondary restriction on it that just makes it feel kind of weird. I think they've done an okay job of making sure that the right socket type is in the right area. So if it's like your ability-based one, based on your element, is in the corner for skill power, your firearm-based cell is in the firearm corner, that sort of thing. But it means that like kind of like overlapping them between characters gets kind of weird because of the restriction there. And I also don't feel like it would have been, considering we're spending 5 extra points minimum, and when I say minimum, I mean minimum, because, you know, if you're in the area of the arcade turning board, you can get the cell slot for 5 extra points. But if it's a cell that you want, but it happens to be in an opposite corner or a far corner, it's more than 5 points, right? Because then you need to venture over to that corner of the board, which can be, you know, anywhere from a couple points to 5, 10, 15 points just to get over there, just to be able to unlock the slot and use it if that's what you're trying to do, right? You may want to find some hybrid build that uses a different corner of the arcade tuning board to be able to access that kind of power game. And I think it just puts a very, very like raw and harsh restriction on being able to use this system. But I would argue the biggest problem with the mutant cell system is the drop rate. I actually have been going at this since launch, and I've gotten a total of 2 boxes. Comment down below how many of these mutant cell boxes you've gotten yourself. Since the launch this week, I've gotten 2 total. I used one on Valby. I'm not sure who to use the second one on, because I don't know when I'm going to get another one, to be honest. There are people that I've seen in my chat and on message boards online. They've been been doing, you know, like several hours of Sigma a day, and they haven't even gotten a single box. There are people that, you know, it's the weekend and they're off work and they did like 9 hours straight of only Sigma sector, which is kind of mind numbing. And they ended up getting like 0 boxes or 1 box. So realistically, if you're playing super hardcore and grinding Sigma constantly, your rate of getting Sigma boxes seems to be about 1 every 6 to 10 hours or so, which is insane considering, you know, how much you want to experiment with and try with and all of that, like play all different builds. And on top of that, they are completely consumable, right? There's no like protection in consuming your mutant cells. You not only you have to like select the cell from the box, but once you have it, in order to be able to like use it in a different preset or use it with a different character, you have to farm another one. So the requirement for farming on these cells is exceptionally high. So if you wanted to use the same cell in different presets, like actually use the presets, they don't get shared across the presets for arcade tuning. So if you wanted to have the same, like maybe you wanted to have like 3 presets for one character, it's the same build with just different variants of like, maybe you want more skill cost reduction, maybe you want like a firearm hybrid, maybe you want some skill power or mana or something like that. In order to have multiple presets, you have to farm the same cell 3 times to have it exist in 3 different presets. So even in the same Descendant group, you're hard limited on being able to use that cell there. And on top of it, if you wanted to use multiple Descendant builds with multiple different cells, you have to just get after it. And honestly, I feel like even if you spent all of your TFD time doing Sigma Sector until Season 3 comes out, you're probably only going to fulfill your mutant cell goals in a single digit number of cases, like, you know, maybe 5 or 6 builds that you can actually put it in, because the time is so large in that case. And I'm actually starting to hear people that are saying that they're just giving up on the system entirely because the reward is kind of like a side grade. In some cases it's a nice upgrade, in many cases, in some cases it's just a side grade. Like, it's not like a massive increase like the whole introduction of arcade tuning was, or God forbid the weapon core system, which completely turned the game on its head. It's kind of like a minor to moderate increase, and in some cases you're giving up power in order to gain that increase, which, you know, for that kind of return, the reward there for how much grinding you do to get it just seems like it's just doing the whole system a disservice. And so I'm actually seeing people that still play the game every single day that are just saying, I give up. I don't care about mutant cells. I'm not gonna farm them. I don't care anymore. Like, it's just not worth it, that sort of thing. So in concept, this is kind of like the gripe that I have with new content in TFD in general. Even though I still play the game, still love the game, it's just that sometimes they have these really cool ideas, and then when it comes to actual implementation, sometimes they take these hard left turns into a brick wall that kind of takes the vibe away in a lot of cases. And I think mutant cells is that as well. The fact that there's only a couple different options for a single mutant cell socket type, right? So if you know you have a rutile in that spot, you only have like 5 or 6 choices to choose from that socket type. Additionally, you're going to have to farm a metric boatload of Sigma Sector, which you had already been doing for the last month or so. You're just going to have to do more of it now in order to get it. You know, generally, I disagree with people that are like super doomer and convinced that the systems are going into the game just to extend the grind and waste your time. But in this case, it kind of feels like that might be true. This system is just one that I feel like they're gonna have to tune. So stay tuned for future updates. Like, hopefully they do like a hot fix that increases the drop rate. I think it would have been better for them if they made the mutant cells drop all over the game. Like right now they drop from Sigma Sector. They also do drop from 400% operations, albeit at a lower rate. You can actually get the mutant cell boxes from 400% operations. But honestly, if they wanted it to be this rare and this like running your head against a brick wall to try and get the cells, I feel like they very easily could have said that there's a chance of these boxes dropping from anything in endgame content. Like, as long as you're on hard mode, if you do void vessels, if you do the infiltration operations, if you do 400%, if you do invasions, if you do the Sigma Sector, like no matter what you do, there's a chance of them dropping. And then I feel like the drop rate would be a little bit more reasonable, and you could just say like, hey, just play the game, farm whatever you're going to farm, go wherever you're going to go. The boxes will come as you're just playing normally. But to say that it's this low of a drop rate in one or two very specific activities that you have to do over and over and over, I feel like is I don't know. It's a system design choice that takes a lot of the joy out of making these grinds fun for the player. Maybe that's too harsh. Let me know what you think about the system in general, but I feel like it's a lot of effort for something that in some cases might just be a small to nominal increase in power, or like you're trading power for a close to equal amount of power, so you end up being only slightly better than you were before. Now, it's not to say that there isn't like some nice power increases. There are definitely some builds that you can run that like take two corners with two different mutant cells that are actually really good. So there are definitely some boons and strengths you can get from that system that overall feel really good and feel like they're a good addition. But you know, sometimes it's also just not that great. And also like you're limited by the choice, you're limited by the stats that are on it, you're limited by the drop rate, you're limited by the socket type. There's just so many restrictions and limitations. I feel like this one was kind of I feel like this one needed either a little bit more cooking, or again, they needed a system designer to kind of polish this up and make sure that the overall process of starting to farm your mutant cells and then getting them to drop and then, you know, putting them into your board is a rewarding and fun-filled activity that is a good addition to the game, rather than this, you know, being pushed or relegated more toward like an off-season downtime patch, like, hey, here's something to do while you wait for season 3, but it's not going to be like the new hotness or whatever kind of system that they add. The next thing I wanted to address, because this comes up quite a lot, and it's you know, I just wanted to be able to address this. So looking at the player counts on PC for TFD, I just wanted to kind of give some insight, at least from an ex-developer, on what we're looking at here and also what people say. Because I see this all the time. People be like, well, you know, look at the amount of people playing right now on Steam. The game is dead. Why are you playing it? Don't buy anything. And there's like some doomers that are like walking around the street, spitting on people on the sidewalk, saying, don't ever play this game, it's dead, whatever. So looking at this realistically, right, like this kind of curve is extremely normal for games that launch, right? So that's the first thing, that you're gonna see this kind of curve no matter what. There's a big onset, especially with free-to-play games that have no barrier of entry, like anyone can play. And honestly, like I can give you plenty of examples that show like launch free-to-play games that started really high and then dropped down really low really fast. I think this is a very smooth curve for TFD. And another thing that you really want to pay attention to when you're looking at games like this is that these little bumps here, these are actually really, really good. It means that when they do a new release or a new patch, they actually do get people to come back and play. So like the CCU and the MAU go up because of that patch. And you can see like boop, you got boop, you got boop. Every time they do like a season update or an episode update, it does get people to come back and play. And so where we're sitting right now, I think is actually fairly decent for the game overall. So that's like the first point. The second point that I think a lot of people don't understand and probably wouldn't unless they've actually shipped games on console, since the metrics for console, both consoles, are not public. They don't make these available, right? So games like this, especially grind-based games, tend to be more valuable and more successful on console. And generally, like a general rule of thumb that I would give, it changes drastically based on game. Some games are just not going to be all that good on console, and some games are just not going to be all that good on PC in general. But I think the general rule of thumb that I give people is like, take your PC audience and double it, and then that's about how much you'll get for Xbox and then again for PS4. So whatever this number is, you can pretty much like 4 or 5x it, and that'll be about what you'd get for total player base. So like if you're talking about, you know, a 24-hour peak of 11,000, you can probably expect maybe between 50 and 80,000 CCU total across all platforms, which is a very good spot to be in, right? Like a lot of games would beg and plead and give their left pinky to be able to have that kind of player engagement. The other thing to think about is just the amount of financial backers the game has. With new updates on this, we generally will see about about 30 or 40 rank places jump up on the First Descendant, which is people buying the new skins or cosmetics that come in with a new patch, which is, again, a good sign, even though it is free to play. I think that their quarterly sales report is down from last year for sure, but that's kind of expected for a game like this. And obviously it shows that Nexon still has some investment in the title in general and are kind of happy to see it grow. Realistically, you're not going to see a looter shooter break the bank. In general, looter shooters tend to be more niche as a genre, just because you are kind of grinding over and over and over and over and over, and that is the game. Like, the grind is the game for a looter shooter, and not everyone wants to, you know, run their head against a brick wall 20,000 times in order to get a mutant cell that they can use on one character in one preset. Generally, those kind of games are never going to be mainstream. Warframe has kind of shown a bit of an exception to that, but even like all the different looter shooters we've seen come out over the years, some of them are flashes in the pan, like they appear and disappear instantly. They just didn't take. So the fact that the First Descendant is still holding, they have people coming back for new patches, they have people watching in anticipation of new patches, and they also do buy the content that comes out when it's released, shows that the player base is still there and is still healthy and still grows, right? So like you can even see some of the things that First Descendant, even like, you know, days after a launch, are still beating out in total sales, right? Like you can see that First Descendant this week for sales is over things like Path of Exile, or, you know, things like Monster Hunter Wilds, a full price game, things like that. So it is still in the running and still doing quite well. So I would challenge the doomers that say that player base is dead, no one plays this game, give up on it, that sort of thing. Now, I still think that TFD has a great shot in like 2026. I think that, you know, overall the game is one of the best looking games on the market for sure. It definitely has super high fidelity. They have some of the higher end options. They have some, you know, upscaling options. They also have cinematic quality, which not every game has, which is really good. And it also has, you know, more realistic, relatable, human-like characters that a lot of people can attach themselves to. And it also is, you know, one of the better running Unreal 5 engine games as well. Like performance, engineering, and stability wise, I think it is a very well made product. I think that they're still hyper struggling in the gameplay and game design department. And if they can find a way to clean up these awkward faux pas of like releasing a system that completely breaks the whole game design of it, releasing a system that it just isn't really well thought out and has a lot of really weird friction with low payoff and just awkward systems that don't make any sense. If they can find a way to release characters that don't completely gotcha game break everything when they come out, or they can find a way to make old characters that have been irrelevant for a very long time meaningful and relevant, then I think that this game could very easily become the very, very strong staple in a lot of people's libraries. And very obviously, there's a lot of active people in the community giving their feedback constantly. But I guess time will tell on that front. I really do hope that they can find ways to, you know, really nail the game design on launch with things. Like, imagine, like, if they can do that, I feel like, you know, with every patch, if they could do that 3, 4, 5 patches in a row, where like when the new system comes out, it's really clean and elegant and it fits in the game and it's fun to grind and you get some really cool powers, and like all the systems make sense, and like, you know, the external components really make you wonder like, oh, what could I make with that build? What could I do with this build? That sort of thing. And, you know, a lot of the awkward systems get cleaned up. I think that it could be a really great addition to everyone's libraries. But let me know what you think about that in general, and where we're at with the game right now, what you think about the mutant cell system and how the impact it's had on the game, and also just what you're looking forward to for Season 3 and in the coming updates in the next month or so.
If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.